back in the lab with Brandon Fortino.
Back in our weekly show.
Yes.
How you doing, my man?
Hey, brother.
Good.
I've been dying to ask you.
Ooh.
So, whenever I see these guys on YouTube
Right.
banging out, ripping out videos off the cuff, intros, the way they show, the way they do, it can be somewhat intimidating. How does one go about setting themselves up in a way where they get that hook right away or get over that hump, especially when they're recording by themselves?
Right.
I know that's my fear.
Yeah. Like the long form kind of YouTube style.
Kind of, yeah.
Dude, that's a funny story because for the longest time, I have been kind of like avoiding YouTube for that reason. You know, I was like, don't really want to do it because it's longer. That's why I stick with the short form, and the longer form is actually like doing more like a podcast, like what we're doing. This is very easy, right? To do just kind of conversations.
Yeah.
But then I started learning, kind of like how you wanted to learn about a specific topic. I was like went deep into like YouTube. I was like, okay, seeing the masters like Sean Cannell, Think Media, Owen Video, all these people. Like, how did they do it? Because their specialties in these like 3 to 10 minute videos, right?
Yeah.
And it all sounds cliche, but it's like all in the preparation. Like, you might think like these people don't like just come on camera, like all just start talking to them. But at the end of the day, they have actually a script or run a show that they run into. Now, we can break that down in a little bit and how like these scripts run down. But essentially, these people take the time to prepare for what these videos are going to be like. Okay, so we can now break down what's inside of these things. And usually for YouTube videos, the kind of general structure that you want to go for is hook, intro, point 1, point 2, add space, point 3, point 4, whatever, outro. How many other points? That's usually the breakdown of like what consists of a YouTube video.
Got it.
Educational ones. The one that's like not your Mr. Beast style of like, hey, I'm going to do some random crazy stuff. We call those like the trendy type content, but I'm talking more of like the business owner, educational type content using YouTube as a search platform. So hook, intro, point 1, point 2, add space, point 3, point 4, outro. With that general structure, now a lot of people usually spend their time in the hook and the intro. So that hook is that first 3 to 4 seconds. Actually, no, 3 to 10 seconds usually. And that's like the stuff that you say in the first, basically like, hey, this is what the video is going to be about.
Yeah.
And the recommendation for that, at least like from stuff that I've been learning from a lot of these people, because, you know, everybody in the YouTube community agrees that your thumbnail, which is your picture, and then your title is what's going to get people to click on your video. And then when they see that first 10 seconds, that's what's going to make them stay in the video.
Got it.
So the simple solution to make that all work together is that your first 10 seconds should mention anything that's on your title. Simple as that. Because someone's clicking that video because they see the title and the thumbnail, right?
And it's funny because when you say that, like I love watching YouTube.
Right.
Like YouTube, Rumble. I feel like I get better quality information there that's unfiltered.
Right.
Number one.
Yeah.
But I also feel like I've heard this, certain people say it where they call it bury the lead.
What is that?
Where bury the lead is like they're trying to talk about a specific subject item.
Okay.
So back to like the thumbnail. They have like, hey, we're going to talk about building ADUs.
Sure.
And they blow past it. They buried the lead. So like, hey, we're going to talk about building ADUs. And then when you and let's get into financing. And it's like, hey, wait, rewind a little bit. Let's talk about building the ADUs again, right?
Right.
So I started seeing how some people talk about certain things and they don't necessarily go in depth enough about the items, or they really gloss over it in so much generality. So I'm like, okay, I get the concept, but how do I get into the nitty gritty? And when I think about that, I think about it in the form of a library. That's how I think.
Okay.
So, you know, if there's a section of videos for my clients right now that I'm going to be doing, it's going to be terms and terminologies.
Sure.
So what's a delta? What's this? What's that?
Yeah.
What do these different things mean? So that way, if there's a question or a pause, they can go reference that information, or maybe watch this first so we can speak the same language before you watch this ADU. So, hey guys, awesome. Here's my ADU video. Time out. I need you to watch these video terms because I'm going to be talking about terms. What's a Dadu versus the junior versus this.
Yeah.
And then when we go back to this, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Right.
So I feel like sometimes that's kind of missing, and they allow it to be so general. They kind of like bury the lead.
Right. So that's a great question. I love how you mentioned like that whole having some sort of sequential order to YouTube. So here's one of the things that I learned, and I think it's like really good for your audience to get to know. When you're making a YouTube video, don't just make one-off YouTube videos. Do it in silos. So what that means is, for example, say ADU. That's a silo. Come up with 4 or 5 topics that you can make out of ADUs.
By the way, what's an ADU?
It's an ADU, accessory dwelling unit,
Accessory
or a granny
dwelling
flat.
Yeah.
So
you know what a Dadu is?
I heard of it before.
So here's what's really random. So in California, we just call all ADUs ADUs. But if you're in like Seattle, a detached ADU, they call it a Dadu. Detached ADU.
That's funny.
Random.
Yeah.
Which I wish we would use that terminology because it would differentiate the attached ADU versus a detached ADU.
Yeah, that's actually a good one. Yeah. Like clip that part.
Clip that part, yeah.
That's a good one.
Save this for me, bro.
No, but that's great. But think about it this way, right? You have this silo. And I wish you can put up like a picture right now of like what my silos look like.
Bro. I'm still learning.
I know, yeah, don't worry.
No.
So say ADU, I just do it in Google spreadsheet. ADU. And now you come up with 5 other video titles. What is an ADU? How to build an ADU, terms you need to know before building an ADU, the teams that you need to build an ADU, maybe best softwares that you need when you're building your first ADU. So under the silo of ADU, you have 5 videos, right? And you make these in a batch recording. The reason you want to do this is through YouTube's own algorithm. So I don't know if you ever noticed when you watch YouTube, on the right side, there's always the recommended videos, right? Yeah. There's always that recommended video. Say you're watching like how to cook pasta, and then like the first 5 recommendations is going to be like how to cook a chicken parm, how to cook like maybe like fettuccine, and then something related to that first video. The reason why you wanted to record and upload in these silos, batches, whatever you want to call it, silos, is because when somebody say watch the what is an ADU video, your goal is so that YouTube will showcase your other video that's related to that specific topic. So if you're talking about what is an ADU, the next video that can play is how to build an ADU, for example, or terms that they need to know about ADUs. And if you do it in these batches of 5 in a silo format, then you'll be able to get technically more views, and you just kind of get people that binge watch your videos. Keyword binge watch videos, because YouTube rewards YouTube channels that is binge watchable. They're more like a Netflix than a social media, you know what I mean? So they want people to binge watch their content. Yeah. So that's like one of the ways that you can do that. It's
like news articles for me on specific subject matters.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
Okay.
Because everyone has a different, topic that they like to cater towards.
Yeah.
And that's what they really kind of typically cover.
Yeah.
So, I watch like real estate type of stuff. I watch Real Estate Ninja. So if you're ever watching, Johnny Bravo, have you ever watched that guy?
Oh, like the cartoon?
No, it's just he looks like the guy from the cartoon.
Oh, no.
But
I know the cartoon.
The market analysis that I get from him as he goes through it is better than me watching MSNBC.
Yeah.
He speaks in normal terms. He's kind of quirky. Does his thing, but the quality of what he's actually bringing is so much more. Not even it's thorough. I feel like it's relatable conversation. I feel like a lot of times the old world media presentation is so stiff and upright. Like for me, coming from a mortgage banking background, we used to always be in suit and ties every day. Right. Because that's what people expected. Hey, this guy's handling my money. Right. And especially if I'm working with a bigger realtor, they want to see you and driving up in the Porsche, and this guy's successful. As we continued in the industry, perception. A white BMW on a lease, right? Yeah. But especially after COVID, a lot of things so much more changed, where I feel like coming in a suit is almost a level of intimidation. That especially dealing with first-time home buyers or immigrant clients, right? I deal with Hispanic buyers all the time.
Yeah.
If I roll in with a suit, depending on the situation, majority of the time, it's like, this guy's in it. This guy's in it. Take advantage of me. Kind of, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Depending on who I'm working with. So I feel like the old world media almost is like that. It's really dry and crusty. And it's very narrative driven instead of just being really open about all angles of the business and being honest about it, not painting these rosy pictures. I feel sometimes also their opinion can kind of get jumped into that.
Right.
Which is always you have to filter some of that out.
Like the opinions. Yeah.
Yeah, like their opinions. But a lot of times what they see and what their opinion is, they're right.
Yeah.
You know? And so I feel like there's a very fine blend of that when I'm watching some of these. And I think from the agent standpoint, we're fearful of offending people or saying the wrong thing or sounding, weird or
certain
quirky.
way. Yeah.
But at the same time, and I'm watching some of these characters on TV, on my YouTube.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I get. I almost get to know them as a person. And if I see them on the show, I'm like, dude, what's up, bro?
Correct.
Like,
yeah.
So
exactly.
How does somebody get over that?
Get over the feeling of his.
Yeah. From like the old world perception of how we need to be all stiff to now just being more, I don't know, authentic, I guess.
I think a part of it is just being comfortable with who you are. I know that's kind of deep and philosophical in a way, kind of like, because I feel like some people just, at least like I noticed this in the first time, like when I was making content too, right? Like it feels like I'm uncomfortable putting it on camera because I think that I am supposed to be another person, like kind of like what you were saying. But when I started accepting, like, this is me, I like my red jacket, I like my color, I like the way I speak, I like my background that English not my first language, so my grammar sometimes kind of sucks, but hey, this is just who I am. And that actually being comfortable with that and being okay with that, first of all, that now alleviates the pressure of just you have to be this certain person.
Yeah.
And when you get in front of the camera, just think about you're just talking to another person. It's the easy part to say. Like, it just, hey, there's another person in the other side of the camera. You know what I mean? That person, just imagine it. If you're uncomfortable, like, oh, this random person, just think about it, just your friend, your best friend. Think about you just talking to your best friend. Because quite frankly, like, the algorithm is like just good enough to serve your content to people that connect with you. That's why you feel that connection.
Yeah.
That's why it's weird when you see like a famous YouTuber, say like a Mr. Beast, a David Dobrik, whoever, like these giant guys, Ryan Serhant. You watch their videos and then you go out and say you see them in person. It feels like you already know them because of that connection. And you say like this is your way of connecting. So
they're already there, who they are.
They already know who they are. They know what
yeah.
they do. They know what they stand for, what they believe in. They're kind of like fangirling over this person on the other side of the camera. And that's just because that's just a powerful tool that it is. So being comfortable with who you are and just thinking about it's a conversation. It's not like it's a TV show. It's a conversation. Just talk about it. Talk about what you know. Talk about what you're passionate about. Give them like yourself at its best, So yeah.
And I wish the other piece is really kind of difficult too, because I see a lot of the guys doing their own editing and their own cuts and clips. And I feel like that's an art form in itself to kind of learn,
It is.
I mean, obviously here we have all the nice equipment. We have everything all set up. Because I felt for myself that I had to have all things perfect.
Sure.
And then I see other guys that literally just plop up their cell phone, like the Real Estate Ninja just throws his cell phone up and has scratch notes on the pizza lid, and it just goes off and boom, 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 is just dropping dimes the whole time. I know that part of that, people will pass through it because of the aesthetics.
Right.
But at the same time, I do see a lot of people that, like last night, I was about to go to bed. I like watching cooking videos, right? So like recipes, I save them.
Okay.
All right.
Like what kind of say? Are you talking about like
just in general?
What kind of cuisines do you like to watch?
Oh, everything, bro.
Oh, really?
Oh, everything. Okay. Yeah. Like last time I was watching like Middle Eastern.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
I'm talking about, this was like super Middle Eastern, bro. like goats in the background and the whole nine. And this lady was just making, the stuff. And I'm like, man, that looked really good. And dude, I'll tell you what it was. She got potatoes.
Yeah.
She, shaved the potatoes, cored the potato out,
Okay.
made this little meat separate, right? With the herbs that she was making.
Yeah.
Took the potato, deep fried the potato first,
Yeah.
brought them back, took the meat, stuffed the potato with it, with the core. She mushed it on the bottom, and then she put them in a tray. All these potatoes stacking up, right?
Yeah.
Poured a sauce over the whole thing. And I was all,
Did they bake it? Or
yeah, she baked it
she
afterwards.
baked it afterwards.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I was all, dude, that's bomb. Saving.
More just later.
Yeah, but then I'm thinking to myself, dude, I'm watching this lady probably in some
Country.
farm in Kazakhstan
Yeah.
making this crazy dish, and
Yeah.
her editing's better than mine.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just the angles, she's chopping, clips to this, she does this, and then she does like funny things, like she's like that, and boom, the onions were cut.
Yeah.
You know? I feel like I don't have the time in the day to do that kind of stuff.
Mm.
I'm already doing my day to day.
Right.
I'm building my business. I'm doing my investments. How does somebody get proficient enough to get those things banged out in a timely manner?
I think, you know what, quite frankly, I'd offer this perspective. I think it depends on what you're doing content for. Because there's a lot of reasons why people would do content, right? Like a lot of people like us, business owners, like we want content so that we can get more business, right? And that's why we're thinking in terms of like what is the most efficient way out of my time to do this content. Whereas there's another side of that book where there are creators that just love creating. Maybe she just loves cooking and she wants to be the best at cooking, and that's why she makes put all these times. Her systems are probably not the most efficient. Her system is probably like she doesn't have, you know what I mean, like huge editors or editing team and stuff. She takes time to move the camera herself, maybe to the editing. But it's like her goal is probably not to maybe monetize out of this. Maybe she'll make money. It's like to live her life. But at the end of the day, she maybe finds joy in doing that, something like that.
I feel like when I take a step back and looking at it from a creator standpoint, which is really making me change the way I look at certain things,
right,
is chronological order of events.
Mm.
So, hey, I'm going to make a pizza. All right, well, step number 1 is make the crust. Here's a video of me making the crust.
Right.
Step number 1. Step number 2, I got to spin the crust.
Right.
Okay. Then, okay, here's my sauce. Let me watch me. Okay. I'm going to make my sauce now.
Yeah.
You know, but it's knowing those things in advance.
And that comes with the preparation, right? That comes with the preparation. Because like even some of the most successful YouTube person out there in business, in entertainment and whatnot, even the vloggers sometimes, like they know what is generally going to be spoken at, or what is the course of order that you were talking about. Like what is the order of this video is going to be. And when you come in prepared before you press the record button on videos like that, you'd come in more confident and you'll come up more efficient too, quite frankly, because you come in like, okay, I know the first thing I'm going to talk about this. The second thing is this. Third point is this. I'm going to put an ad slot here. I'm going to put like this, and that's going to be my outro. Boom, you go in, take an hour to record, you're done. You know what I mean? And it'll help your editing team too as well. Be like, hey, here's the order. I might have messed up on some of these, but here's generally what it's going to look like. Cool, can you edit in that direction? They're like, dope. So now they don't have to spend time to figure out what should I do, where to plug where, you know what I mean? Like, does the end supposed to be in the front? No, this is the order. Here's the bullet points of the headings is what I'm going to be covering. So please edit it to this.
Yeah.
Like, cool, good to go. And they love the directions, and then you give them creative freedom. Like, you know, when I say this, can you just make some sort of like crazy transitions or whatnot? That way, like you can always give them like the creative freedom to also try out new stuff.
I really appreciate watching the Think Media.
Yeah.
That's one of the things. And I think, you know, when I watched Think Media, one of the things I really appreciated was they broke it down in different levels of game. So like if you have your cell phone, hey, we recommend this software to use.
Right.
Because, you know, for you, this is how you're going to be editing off your cell phone.
Right.
Great. Then if you're going to step it up a notch and you're going to use multi-cameras,
right,
here's another software you want to use. And then like me, because that's just how I am, hey, let's go to the AI. You can upload like 4 angles of video at one time, and it's going to you know, and it's going to plug in all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I want that one.
Yeah. It's a level of expertise, I think. It's like at the end of the day, right? Like just like in real estate, I wouldn't go in and do like a 40-unit multifamily as my first deal.
Why not?
I don't know, man.
You saw me ADDing out over there earlier.
Maybe if I'm partnering with you, I'd be like,
I'm like, bro, I'm all excited. Check this out.
Be like, take me under your wing. I'll do it. You know what I mean? But I mean, to
I should do that one day. I get so excited off that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like just because it's strange for me now when I see it. And this is something else. When I see the excitement, because I was listening to you earlier. And you were saying how the individuals that are actually going about doing their recipe or doing their whatever they're recording about themselves,
right,
they're really excited about that subject matter.
Yep.
And so they can take a step back and say, okay, if I was going to show you how to put a motor together, here's kind of the steps that we would do to put the motor together, and just kind of jot it down.
Right.
And I don't even think they'd have to jot it down. They're just doing it.
Yeah.
They already know the steps to go. I'm just going to record you. Can now I do this. And then now I do this. So if we're coming from a position where we don't know the chronological order of events, then I guess it's going to be pretty hard. But if I'm going to go on underwriting a property or a project or a development or something,
right,
I'm going through the same action steps, right? I'm going through, step number 1 is, identifying the type of units or the maximum I can maximize this lot with. Step number 1, what can I build?
Right.
That's step number feasibility. Then I got to do this next. And then, okay, you can do maximum square footage of X.
Survey the land. Yeah, you go on
now,
this.
Based on my gross rents to maximize the doors, I need to do X.
Right.
And I probably should do that. Actually, you know what? I will do that.
That's right. I like to hear that.
I will do that. At the same time, though, I also feel like I'm creating competition.
In what?
And out in the marketplace. Because I started to see that as well. I see things, especially in the flip, because I have they don't work for me, but in my office we have about, I want to say 15 dialers now that are on the flip team.
Right.
They call, acquire properties, get properties. And then I coach with Thatch Nguyen.
Right.
He's big on social media now, but one of his first students for a couple years. And I watched him watch our group grow. We were from 20 people till I would jump on Zoom from time to time, and it was like 250 people. Dang. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On a Zoom. 250 people on a Zoom is a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. On a weekly call, by the way.
Yeah.
Right? On twice a week to show up. Middle of the day, like 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
So you got to be in it to win it, to be on a
for sure
2-hour Zoom
with that
at 10 o'clock to learn about flips. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, he's mass producing competition. All these people now are trying to get into the game. But then at the same time, one of the things that I heard him say, he's like, you know what? Maybe 1% of you is going to do it. I can give you all the information and only 1% of you is going to do it. And that's kind of where I find my solace, is that I want to do these things, but I'm not wanting to do it to create future competition, but trying to do it to create clientele base to come to me, right? I want them to find the need, right? I don't necessarily want to find the call to action. Case in point, like my range, I need to get a new transmission.
Right.
I'm really good with cars. I could build motors, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Changing a transmission on the range is out of my scope, right? It cost $4,000 to switch this thing out.
Right.
I'm gonna go to a specialist for something like that.
Right.
Right. I could change the oil, but not the tranny.
Right.
That is basically how I have to look at it. I'm still the mechanic specializing in the transmission change, because that's what I have to do, and not be worried about showing this is how you change a transmission. Because at that level, though, it's only going to show to a small percentage of audience that's going to be interested in that level of
intricacies. Yeah.
Intricacies. ADUs is a great example. When I started ADU Geeks with my buddy, and I started getting into ADUs in 2017 before they were popular. Nobody even knew the fucking term.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
By 2018, started putting some projects together. 2019, I started seeing more agents start popping into the concept of it. To me, it was like a no-brainer.
Right.
It was
it's a win for your clients.
This was dumb. We facilitated that part of the process. And like in the first year, this is props to my boy Kalani, is that they did over 200 projects like in the first year. But since then, we started to see all these different other companies sprouting up.
Right.
You know? And I would think to myself, man, if they were teaching how to do ADUs and people were getting that information, they basically created their own competition in the marketplace. And I think depending on the kind of content that you want to create, that could potentially be a byproduct of it. And I don't know, I'm speaking for myself.
For sure.
But that depending on the kind of content that you want to put out there, that could be a potential, but at the same time, not allow that to stop you from doing what you want to do. Right? Especially like from like a real estate standpoint, from a realtor standpoint. I don't feel like when I'm sharing things on finance, on loans, that I'm going to all of a sudden create a loan officer.
Right.
But it's enough information for my clients to understand these are the things that we're going to need in order to try to put your package together with whatever build or construction or property you want to do.
Right.
Right. But at the same time, I need them to know enough of the vocabulary to be competent. So when we're speaking,
it'll be the same language.
It's the same language.
Right.
So I guess what I'm trying to say, I recognize that there's like this fine line of that where you don't want to create your competition and saturate your marketplace because now you're giving all this information out.
Right.
And at the same time, being able to still monetize it by bringing in the lead generation.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be something that we would need to consider then as business owners when we're trying to provide that kind of content to be conscious of, I guess?
When it comes to like creating your own competition?
Yeah.
That's a great question. And I feel like not a lot of people talk about that. Whereas I would offer actually a different perspective on that. Whereas instead of seeing it as creating competition, like kind of the example with the Range Rover and the engine swap, right? Mm-hmm. It's, you're not really creating competition because there's going to be so little people that are going to take action on it. Yeah, you can create another loan officer and they might take a client. That's like such a small odds. Mm-hmm. Whereas to me, at least like from what a mentor that I listen to, you listen to Tatch, I listen to this guy, Alex Hormozi, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. He's a big proponent of you give so much value out there that you kind of like, basically your value delivery is the intricacies, right? Because I can give content advice all day to people on socials, and that will create some successful people, which is awesome. And they'll, if they're a good person, they would credit you for it. Like, hey, thanks for this and that. Mm-hmm. Just like I'll credit my mentors a lot. Mm-hmm. But when they say like, oh, I have a specific problem with this specific situation, with this specific instance, they're like, I don't know what to do. And I can't make a video about every single part of those intricacies and those nuances. So that's when the value where you would work with them, that's where, they have the opportunity to partner with you, be your clientele, whatever that looks like. Mm-hmm. That makes sense as a business owner. Yeah. So shifting that perspective instead of like, I'm afraid to give too much, whereas you give as much as you can and people will come to you once they know that, okay, I know a little bit more about the definitions about the loans that I need to understand. Mm-hmm. So what's a good, say like if I'm trying to go into an investment property, what's a good loan that I should, is this a good interest rate? Mm-hmm. And like, it's 16% or something, mm-hmm. whatever, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like, if I'm doing private money, is like 11%. Is this good? Like for the property, mm-hmm. you can't make videos about that, right? Because it's just so random. It's so mm-hmm. nuanced. Mm-hmm. And that's where people are going to go to. I'm like, I'd rather just go with you. Let's just tell me about, you know what I mean? Like, I
started really realizing that and thinking about it the other day because I did have, I had a conversation with one realtor that specializes in a specific market type. Okay. And when we started talking about that market type, she had apprehensions of talking about it because she's like, oh, I don't want to tell everybody how I'm getting with divorce attorneys and dealing with that nature of business because it's my niche. Sure. But then I have another friend of mine who does probate sales, also works with attorneys. We sat down in here and bro, I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years. I learned so much stuff in that 1 hour of how he's going after agents, are the attorneys, how he's working through them,
Right.
how they even get chosen in the process, and
Right.
what the families are going through and things to think about. Like, he went through it. Like, I felt educated enough to be like, man, that was like the building blocks for me to go out and be a probate agent.
Sure. Yeah.
But at the same time, I felt like I also, maybe to your point, I respected his position.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, dude, you're like the dude in that space, because you know, and you speaking the language and being the interpreter from the attorneys to like the families,
Right.
and understanding the gaps and the conversation and how much different this is versus the kind of transactions that we do.
Right.
And he's like, oh yeah, bro, the emotions are so different because they're looking at the bottom line. They're not attached to it. And some family members are attached to that property because they grew up in that property. So there's this emotion that we have to overcome.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, I don't have to deal with that on these other deals, especially with investors. There's no real emotion tied to it.
Right.
But yet when you grew up in a house that maybe your parents passed away in and you grew up in,
Right.
one's trying to keep it in the family, one's trying to sell it, the other one has bills to pay and wants top dollar.
Yeah.
They're all of a sudden the expert realtor in the family.
Yeah.
And so he's having to navigate through these different personality types.
Right.
And I thought that to myself, I'm like, man, that's such a skill set. So I ended up walking away with much more appreciation of it.
Right.
And at the same time, had I been a student of it, because I'm not a realtor,
Right.
but if I was a realtor, I'm like, dude, I would watch this again and again and again and again until, I had like a full-blown notes
Right.
written about this stuff. And you know what I mean?
Right.
But I guess to Thatch's point, less than 1%
We'll do that.
was ever going to do that.
And they would probably rather just work with them. Right.
Yeah.
Kind of like,
Or just refer to him.
just refer to him.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they would win. They would get like a referral fee, and the dude gets business.
And again, I just bring this up because
Yeah.
this is some of the I know the thought has slipped through my mind,
Yeah.
right? And when I've had guests talking about sharing their experiences in real estate,
Right.
that thought's going through their mind.
Right.
And I guess for anybody that's really watching this right now or today,
Yeah.
that don't be concerned with that necessarily.
No. Yeah.
A matter of fact, actually, I would even suggest do the opposite, double down on it.
Right.
Make more content on
About
more
that.
definitions about more of that, because you'll end up probably more than likely becoming the source.
Right. And then if you even inspire someone to do something like that, then they're like, dude, thanks for your videos. I'm able to do X, Y, and Z now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're seen as now your brand is so much far elevated. You're like,
Yeah.
the shit that you just told me works.
Yeah.
And they're like, thank you. And you just like, now you're like, okay, he's a specialty. He's an expert. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just the way you look at things. I think there's this perception, I think not perception, but this cultural tradition where we would, in the past, like we want to gatekeep information because we think like that's our value. That's like, this is my value that I can offer, and this is how I'm going to make money. Whereas nowadays, I feel like because of how information is so rapidly transferred, to your point, yeah, you can create more competition. But if you look at it from the other side, it also forces you to create more value, think of more idea. Like we live think about a macro level, like we live in America, it's a capitalist society, right? Whereas like those who have the best ideas can solve the best problems wins, right? That's why the big dudes like Jeff
Elon
Bezos,
Musk
these guys, they solve huge problems that if Elon Musk made a video, say, for like how to start SpaceX, like from start to finish, do you think people like us would be like, dude, I want to start a rocket company tomorrow?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? We're like, nah.
That's pretty gangster.
Right, it's pretty gangster, but like, it's like,
you know what? I would, if Elon Musk ever took the time to watch one of the videos, I would challenge him to make like a water vehicle. A vehicle that runs on water. Swear to God.
That's what the hydrogen cars are for, though, no?
That's right.
Right, yeah, like
Which is crazy
The
because
Toyotas did that.
Well, Toyota's starting to do that.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to me. Here's why this is so amazing to me when I see some of these things, is that when you look at things like a vehicle that would run on water, where it's the most abundant item on Earth, and the byproduct of it is more water,
yeah,
right, as it burns the hydrogen. And so you're not scraping the earth. You're not pulling out rare earth minerals.
Yeah.
You're not doing all this stuff for the sake of trying to feel like you're saving the environment.
right.
And there's actually a much better way to do it, but yet nobody's doing that. And I guess I was getting off topic, but it would be nice to see more people filling the gap of those kinds of needs more often.
For sure.
It would be a different place. The world would be a completely different place.
It should be a call out. So if you know anybody that does like hydrogen fuel cell engineering, like get on this podcast, and then like you'll be able to interview them.
Dude, that'd be so cool. But I mean, you know, and that I think that's part of it though, is that if we're not sharing this type of information with individuals that it could be applicable to,
right?
That we feel, like I said, I know I would have an initial thought of thinking, man, I'm building my competition. But in reality, what we're really doing is we're contributing to the marketplace.
Yep.
Basically,
that's basically what it is.
Basically what it is. You're contributing to the marketplace.
And wouldn't that be a good thing for everybody? You know, in the micro level, right?
Yeah.
Like, in the micro level, maybe you would, maybe even potential. I don't know if that's even a thing, but you would lose, quote unquote, a client or two. But like, hey, you
gain more respect in the industry.
Respect, goodwill, you know what I mean? I think that's a huge thing that not a lot of people think about, the good karma.
That's a very huge thing right there too. I think that's probably one of the more undervalued is the goodwill.
Yeah.
Coming from a position of goodwill. And I think a lot of times, especially guys like myself that started this industry bloom.
Yeah.
And we saw the young 20-somethings posing in front of the Lambo.
The Lambos, yeah.
Right? We won't name names because he's now been arrested, or I don't know if he's been arrested, but he had to give up all his money.
Oh, dang.
I think I told you about him.
Is that the FTX guy?
No. He was here in San Diego.
We'll do it off camera.
yeah. I was going to say he has 2 first names.
Okay.
His first name, last name. It's like 2 first names.
First names. Okay.
Yeah. So I remember when he started. So the first year, business was kind of growing. And this is maybe about 6 years ago, give or take.
Okay.
So business was starting for him. Business started really blowing up. And I remember us having an initial conversation. He's like, bro, if you had $1 million, what would you do with it? And he was buying a house in Point Loma. It was a $2 million property. I shouldn't even continue. But anyhow, as we were going through it, I was like, dude, if I was you, I would take that money and I would park it into a multi-unit. And this is how I would do it. And this is why I would do it. And he's like, oh, man, that sounds really good. But again, because at time, all of them are posing in front of their Lambos and whatnot. So he bought himself a Lambo. And I remember seeing him on, my social media. I'm like, oh, dude, he bought the Lambo. That was so stupid. Then he bought like this fancy high-rise condo. I'm like, oh, so stupid. And to me, when I see those things, it's like, man, they're really just doing it for the outward impression of the success that we're being brainwashed to think, when some of the most wealthiest guys I know dress in sweats.
Yeah.
Like they're normal dudes and you can't tell. And I feel like maybe a lot of people would gravitate to that, and maybe they were gravitating to that for a while because they had that cred, right? But in reality, he was selling a bunch of snake oil. And so as time kind of progressed, that whole thing fell apart and took all of his stuff. So when I was watching that, and I was watching him over the years grow that online business, through YouTube and stuff, and be like, dude, that doesn't really make sense. It made me personally hesitate wanting to put the information out there in a fear of being like that guy or being inauthentic like that guy. And so I had to pause and really, my buddy Quest is going to come on.
Yeah.
Super good story on Quest. And I watched him bloom also over the years. And he posed a question to me probably about 5 years ago. And I really took it to heart. And it was like, if I'm going to start talking about what we do on a day-to-day, that it has to come from the heart. It has to come from inside, because eventually people that are behind the screen are going to see, or they can kind of see through that.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I say this because, again, I'm also from a different generation that almost the social media, they detest it because they know how fake a lot of that stuff can be, you know, and that's not how, but it's okay to be yourself. It's okay to be authentic, and it's okay to put the information out there. It's okay to do that.
Right.
Like, don't let those things hold you back. It's okay.
Yeah.
You know?
I like that. I think people need to take that thing kind of more to heart, because you don't want to be something that you're not. Because it's kind of, there's this thing where, say you create content, you actually do it consistently when you have a brand in yourself.
Yeah.
You don't want it to be like when you meet someone in person, say like a networking event, a cocktail party, whatever, mixer, and you're like, you're so different than your camera. That's I've heard that. That's kind of like the curse. I know, I've heard that too. It's kind of scary, man.
Yeah,
it's like,
I heard that too.
Because like, you know, like, dang, like you're just posing. It's like a facade.
It is.
You know what I mean? Like,
it is. I didn't go, but one of my buddies went to a party in LA, and there was a bunch of influencers.
Oh gosh.
And he goes, dude, we were there. Everybody was like no personality, standing around.
Oh my gosh.
As soon as this thing, like, I don't know whatever presentation was coming out, they were right there with their phone, like a light switch turned on. Hey, what's up, yo? That's, you know, crazy. And they're all doing their thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I don't want to be that guy.
I've heard of horror stories from LA influencers, man. That whole culture up there, it's, I don't know what's in their food. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And maybe the LA fame star
narcissism,
vibes.
Bro.
Yeah.
I think a byproduct of some social media can be narcissism.
Of course. It's always a negative aspect to things.
It's always, yeah. It's in anything, like in real estate, people get taken advantage of because people get a little, lax scruples. So I think within the social media space as well, it's really important to hone down who you are as an individual,
right?
What you really want to bring to the table and what your level of expertise is. Stay in your space.
Agree.
And the authenticness, and that's why I really appreciate Thatch a lot, because that's one of the things that he told us. He's all the time. He's like, you see my page growing. I'm not anybody else, and what you guys see here on a regular occasion, I don't give a shit. I don't need to buy followers. I don't need to do this. I'm just telling people for how it is. And I kid you not, every single Zoom that we were always on was consistent in his thing. And that's why after a couple of years, I'm like, okay, I heard this before. Because he was just so consistent with it. But I also had to take a step back and think, man, this guy that just jumped on, works at Vaughn's stocking shelves,
right?
And to him, this is brand new. So from my perspective, what I had to do was look at him and say, who is he being also as a person? So yeah, that's great. This is how you do a flip, and this is what ARV means, and this is what that. But getting up in the morning and having his green juice and taking his kids to school,
right?
And then making time for them during lunch, and then picking them up and taking them to baseball games. I'm like, wow. That's what I started taking away from it.
And that's what you like about Thatch.
That's what I love about Thatch.
Right? Exactly.
Because he still has like the little Honda Accord. And,
right. Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah.
And with his Rolls Royces sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. You know what I mean?
Phantom, yeah.
And that's what I think all of us really appreciate about working with a guy like that was willing to pour into us, but didn't forget his humble roots and didn't forget who he was. And it wasn't about him flaunting it. Right. And when people would chime in the comments and stuff,
right,
and being like, oh, this dude, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, nah, bro, you don't even know this guy. Like, right. I'd be from my heart. Like, we'd all be jumping in and defending, bro, you don't know this dude. He's like pouring into, he just wants us to be, well off. That's all he's asking for.
And think about that for a second there, because you said the word, like, you feel like, you're all rooting for Thatch, right? Which I love Thatch too. And think about that in a deeper level. Like if you're trying to compare it, say like in a Venn diagram, you and Thatch probably would have similar values. You guys believe in family, like, waking up in the morning, staying healthy. That's why he drinks his green juice, right? Yeah, and you're also like very hardworking. That's why he goes out and look for deals still, even till today, right? So like, I guess that's something that people need to think about, that when you create content, you'll attract those people that are in that similar values, in that similar Venn diagram, right? You guys probably cross. Right. So that's why you have to first be comfortable with yourself, because if you're pretending to be someone that you're not, you'll feel inauthentic and you feel like you can't connect with these people that follow you, rooting for you, because you guys don't have anything to connect with, because that's just a facade that you put up. Right.
Yeah.
So if you come in with the perspective like, okay, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I wanted to teach because I genuinely care and love about this thing. That's it. Record the video. The record the video should be the easiest part. You just press record. That's it. You just press a button. Right. Press a button, just talk. So I guess that's kind of part of it. It's like, there's a reason why you talk about Thatch a lot and maybe not somebody like, let's give an example, like Ryan Serhant, for example. He's more suited up. He's like in New York City type, like high-rise building. He looks very fancy and stuff because that's not your values. You don't connect with Ryan. Ryan has his own people that he's connected with, which is totally fine. He's somebody like you probably would think he's kind of more of like a show-off type thing.
I'll tell you, and funny that you bring the name up because I don't know him personally.
Sure. I don't know him personally either.
And so when I heard him, I have his book. And he came down to San Diego one time and he was talking about his book, about how he got started in real estate. Yeah. And so funny story for him, bro. When he got into real estate and they started recording the video.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. He rented the black SUV.
Okay.
Got the suit. Couldn't afford anything. The SUV was completely rented, but painted the picture of this really, really successful agent.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. He just really looked the part of a successful agent. Yeah. So he almost came from like the polar opposite perspective.
Yeah.
The standing in front of the Lambo and they call it fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
And he'll tell you that. He's like, dude, this is exactly what I did, because on the other end, clientele wise, they want to work with agents that have the perception of being very successful.
Yep.
And therefore, I had to give the view of being extremely successful.
Yeah.
And then I built it as I went along.
That's crazy.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
So, no knock on him, bro. The guy's super successful.
He's smart.
He's smart. He's killing it.
He's killing it. He's crushing it. Yeah.
But I love the fact that where the honesty came from. That was cool, because that was also conscious. One of the things that I've learned from a mentor as well is act on who you want to be 5 years from today. Right. So so when you're doing your goal setting, and a lot of people don't do this, they'll do their goals. I've done this with my guys for the last 20 years, is that we'll write down our goals 5 years from now.
Right.
And we'll sit there and meditate in the office, literally just sit there and meditate and imagine what our life looks like in 5 years. The car you have, the spouse, the kids, the school, what you're doing. And in my mind, it's funny, my wife and I just did this the other day, and in my mind, I'm overlooking there's a place in La Jolla overlooking like the bay and the coast and the water and stuff. And I'm in the grass. I got my barbecue pit, and my kids are bringing their kids, and it's just a beautiful day. I'm spending a day with my family. Yeah. That's my dream, right?
Yeah.
The location, how everything's going. And my wife and I were talking, and she started sharing with me her dream. Ironically, it was exactly the same dream. Man, babe, I wish we would just have a house out here on the hill and, just barbecue and have the family come over, and, our kids are getting bigger. Pretty soon they're going to get married, and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm hearing her story. Wow. Awesome. Our future aligns, right? But the one missing piece was, how am I acting and operating in 5 years from now in order to have those things?
Right.
So if my formula is to have 40 doors and to have, $40,000 a month of passive cash flow, and that's what I need to have, I need to be thinking like that now. So my future me is pulling me forward.
I like that way of thinking. Yeah.
Right. So now, as I'm starting to share information about real estate and what we do, I'm also taking consciously that even though I'm not doing these things, it's not that I'm not authentic about it. I'm actually speaking from the future me 5 years from now. This is where I'm going, and you're just going to be along on the ride for me. So I did take some things away from Serhant in that aspect.
I love that.
That's why I had to put a little caveat to that.
For sure.
It's not fake it till you make it. It's start acting like that now for the person you're going to be.
Yeah.
But not in an inauthentic nature.
Dude, that's fucking fire, dog.
Is that good?
That's fire, dog. We could knock it out right there. Knock it out a home run right there.
So anyhow, man, thank you for coming always, bro. Dude, I always appreciate it.
Be consistent.
Lab.
Yeah, the lab.